Hello, so today I'm going to be telling you guys about glycolysis. Just a little review. Glycolysis is the breakdown of glucose into pyruvate, which eventually turns into energy for the cells to use in the body. So to start, all of this takes place in the cytosol. So we start with glucose 6-carbon, which goes through a kinase reaction, which takes a phosphate from ATP and makes it into ADP. And then this takes us to a glucose 6-phosphate, and this is a rate-limiting factor of glycolysis, which means that it can only go as fast as this phosphate is produced. So after that, it goes through an isomerase reaction, which converts the glucose 6 to a fructose 6-phosphate, and then it goes through phosphofructokinase, which also takes a phosphate from ATP, making it into ADP. And this creates a fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. And then after this step, it creates 2 3-carbon sugars, and it is either GAP or DAP, and that is glycerol aldehyde 3-phosphate or dihydroxyacetone phosphate. So it can go to either of these, and then after this step, it goes from a glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate to a 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate, or 1,3-BPG. And this is the step where ATP is produced, so the phosphate is added back from ADP and creates ATP. And then at this step, we get 2-NADH, which can later be used to create more ATP. After the NADH is created, from the 1,3-BPG, we go to 3-phosphoglycerate, or 3-PG, and this creates a phosphoenolpyruvate, which is also used for ATP. So that happens right here, another phosphate is added, and ADP becomes ATP. And here, depending on if the exercise is aerobic or anaerobic, 2 different things can happen. So if it's anaerobic exercise, lactate is produced, and then if it's aerobic exercise, we get pyruvate. So from the phosphophenolpyruvate, we get pyruvate, and then pyruvate can also be used to create ATP eventually, and it leads to the formation of acetyl-CoA, which can be used for the Krebs cycle. So after all of this, for glycolysis, we get 2-NADH, 2-pyruvate, and then depending on if glycolysis was using glucose, we get 2 ATP, and if it was using glycogen, you get 3 ATP. And that's about it.